You might be like, oh, no, I'm feeling good. There are certain processes that break down throughout our life, things like muscle atrophy, our balance mechanisms in our brain, even brain neurons die. This is part of aging, right? But the best way to prevent some of this, or at least to slow it down maximally, is through the right nutrition and the right activity. But for some reason in our society, we've just accepted that as we age, we just stop doing things. I don't know about you guys, but I can still remember my grandparents, for most of my life that I remember, really not being active at all. I think of my grandmother who died of dementia and Alzheimer's, and I wonder how much of that could have been prevented had she had any activity. I mean, most of my life she sat on the couch, right? So you guys may or may not relate to this based upon the individuals in your life, but it is a very common thing. And it's so unfortunate because just basic activity, exercise, whatever it might be, can do so much for the body. Because the body still responds to all these things as we age. It doesn't stop responding. But as we can see, Americans are living longer lives, right? So we're dealing with more issues that maybe we didn't deal with before. U.S. Census projects that between 2000 and 2030, which we're getting closer and closer to there, that the number of people over the age of 65, especially that baby boomer population, is going to increase from 12.4 to 19.6% of our population. Now, again, numbers-wise on the screen, that might not seem like a lot, but we're talking about millions of people at this point in time over that certain age. So as I mentioned earlier on, although I initially did not get into fitness thinking that I really wanted to work with that population, I found, there is so much enjoyment and satisfaction from helping people in this stage of life, more so for me than I got out of improving someone's 40 time, which is really what I thought I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to train high-performance athletes, and it was fun. It was cool in its own ways, and I learned a lot, and I still get to work with younger athletes sometimes. But the enjoyment and the satisfaction and the impact you can make in individuals' lives here is massive. Now, I'll also talk to you guys about it as a business opportunity. Think about the number of individuals out there under the age of 30 who have money to train with you 3 or 4 days a week. It's going to be a smaller percentage, right? People at a later stage of life who not only have more stability in their income, they've saved up over time. These people, this population, more and more values their physical capacity, so their interest in fitness and training is increasing and it's on the rise. And they also have the time slots that many of your normal clients don't, right? A lot of individuals, here I am right now filming this for you guys down in South Florida. We have a lot of people who come down here to retire. And when most people are working from the hours of 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., these individuals may have more flexibility. So if you're a coach and a trainer who's also looking to really fill your schedule throughout the day rather than have the split schedule that many of you will deal with as you get into training, this population is a great one to go after and is often underserved. So I'll step down off my soapbox for a second, but I really think this is a huge opportunity for a lot of you guys. All right, and as it says here, over 80% of people over the age of 65 have at least one chronic condition, and at least 50% have two. So a lot of them are dealing with some different issues, and they could really use your help. And as we look at the country as a whole, aside from different age groups, just an overall lack of physical activity, right? If we wanted to look at why have we had such an issue with obesity and weight gain over the past couple of decades, it's not just physical activity, it's also nutrition. But think about it. Our lives are so convenient these days, we don't need to be as active. I grew up on a farm in the Midwest where the lifestyle of many people was much more active all day, and now being in a more metropolitan area, we don't have the need to be as active, aside from those who like to exercise. But even if you think about that, if the average person works out for 3 hours in a given week, that's still not a lot of time, right? So if that's the only activity and then they go sit at a desk all day, they still might have trouble losing weight. So there's a couple important things that we're going to look at. The general recommendations for physical activity are actually really not that high, but still very few people reach them as a whole population statistic, right? So it's recommended that we engage in 30 minutes of activity 5 days a week. Not too much, right? 150 minutes in a week. Again, ding, 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 numbers you guys should probably recognize, as that's a pretty common test question, but also just to be aware of, right? Just to get started for most people. The nice thing is there's a lot of health benefits from even that little bit of activity. That 150 minutes can help, especially when it comes to disease. Now, it may not be enough for many people to lose weight and change their bodies, but that's kind of a different story and two different things we're looking at. You could also substitute that if you weren't going to do more of like moderate, lower intensity activity, vigorous aerobic activity, at least 25 minutes, 3 days a week for a total of 75 minutes, or a combination of the two and some sort of high intensity exercise, which is recommended 2 days a week. All of these things, of course, I'm not going to be able to do a high intensity exercise every single day. Probably